forth.
This is my story. Mary Helen Craft.
Hold the phone up because the microphone's in your belly.
I was born in Montevideo, Minnesota on September 10th, 1951, period. My parents' names were Earl Beileen and Adelaide Johnson Beileen. I was the third child born. My dad was so delighted to finally have a girl, although he says a boy would have been just fine also. At this point, I had two brothers, Carl Erland and Judson Earl Beileen. We only lived in Minnesota for a short time, and then my father, who was a pastor, took a church in Reseda, California. So we moved when I was less than a year old. In fact, I believe we moved when I was about 1 month old. In California, we were there for only a short period of time, and my dad accepted a new position in Montclair, New Jersey. So as the story goes, we traveled with 3 kids across the country, which I'm sure was quite a joy to my parents. But then we settled in Montclair, New Jersey. While we were in Montclair, a 4th child was born. That was Elizabeth Ann. My parents were very surprised on the birth certificate. It did not say Montclair. Instead, it said Glen Ridge, New Jersey, because the hospital was in 2 different towns. Part of it was in Montclair and part was in Glen Ridge. But Elizabeth was born in Glen Ridge. We were there for probably about 4 years. And then my dad took a new position as a pastor at First Baptist Church in Stromsburg, Nebraska. That's where I started kindergarten. And I also attended 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and part of 4th grades there. During the time we were in Stromsburg, my youngest sister, Ruth, was born. And her middle name was Marie, Ruth Marie. She was named after my dad's Aunt Ruth, who lived in Seattle. During the time I was in 4th grade, we made yet another move, and this time it was to Albert Lea, Minnesota. So I was in a new classroom in 4th grade, and then during that year, the church bought a new parsonage, so we moved again, but within the same town. In Albert Lea, I was involved in youth group at church, and I went to junior high there, so I was also involved in home ec projects and science projects and things like that. After my 9th grade year, we packed up again. This time we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska. It was quite a change from all the places that we had lived before, because Lincoln was so much bigger, although my parents called it an oversized small town atmosphere. My brothers and I went to Lincoln Northeast that summer to enroll for classes, and Judson and I got all scheduled. But for Carl, they told him, "You've taken everything that we have to offer, so we suggest you go down to the university and start there. But you will have to come back to Lincoln Northeast to take health and to take swimming. And then you will be able to graduate." Probably the exciting part during our high school years was that Carl was chosen as a presidential scholar. There were 2 students from each state that were chosen, and so Carl got to fly to Washington, D.C. and meet President Lyndon Johnson. I probably didn't have anything quite that exciting during my high school years, but I was in pep club at Lincoln Northeast. We were the Lincoln Northeast Rockets. My senior year, I had to make the big decision of where to go to college, and I looked at possibly going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The University of Nebraska seemed way too big for me, even though my brothers attended there. And so my dad and I visited Ottawa University in Kansas, and they had a really strong math program, which was what I wanted to major in. So that's what I decided upon. I enjoyed my time at Ottawa University. I enjoyed my math classes, although I decided I didn't want to teach math in high school. So my junior year, I added an elementary ed major, and I double majored in mathematics and in elementary ed. My student teaching was in Ottawa, and I graduated in May of 1973. I could probably add I graduated high school in 1969, if I backtrack a little. Then after that time, I decided to move to North Platte while I was applying for teaching jobs because my sisters were still in high school and I wanted to be close to my family. I applied several different places, but I got an interview in Arnold, Nebraska, and so that's where I ended up teaching that next fall. When I started there, one of the school board wives says, "You have quite a class." So I wasn't sure what to expect, but everything went really well. I went to Arnold Baptist Church while I was there, and we had a great pastor and pastor's wife, Carl Malmgren, and I was back and forth to North Platte to see my sisters on the weekend. During the summers, I counseled at church camp with my friend Cindy Mahoney, and wouldn't you know, one year I met the love of my life, Robert F. Kraft, commonly known as Bob Kraft. And so from that time on, which would have been after my third year at Arnold, we dated long distance, which actually worked out pretty well because we weren't all that far apart. I was at Arnold, and at that time he was teaching in Gearing. After a year of dating long distance, we decided it would be great to be closer together. He lived in Gearing, and so I moved to Scottsbluff and got an apartment there, and we both attended First Baptist Church in Scottsbluff. And then on July 17th of that summer, after many times of asking if I would marry him, I knew it was the right time to say yes, and so I did.
You taught migrant school the first year. In the summer, did you?
When I first moved out here, I did teach migrant school, and then after that, I was applying for jobs in the area. The migrant school was in Bayard, but an opportunity arose where I could teach in a country school, which was amazing. So then I taught at Lake Alice School, and I ended up teaching there 12 years. During my first year, I started as Miss Bylene, and then Bob and I got married November 26, 1977. And so when I came back to the classroom, I became Mrs. Kraft. It was a little hard for the students to adjust to that. After we got married, next summer, we went on a trip to Europe, so that was kind of like a late honeymoon. We took a class through Chadron State College, taught by Rod Fleeman, and we went to visit different schools in Europe because the class was called Comparative Education. There were several others that went with us, and we had a great time. During the other summers, we took various trips to places around the country, and we spent a lot of time with my family and with Bob's parents, Fred and Ann Kraft, who live in Torrington, Wyoming. Lo and behold, another opportunity came up for me to teach in Gearing, Nebraska. And so I took a job at Lincoln Elementary School and figured that would be where I would be the rest of my teaching career. But God blessed our lives with a bundle of joy and energy in the form of David Robert Kraft. He was born May 7th, 1991. And he has given us a great life. And he has had a great life also. He went to community Christian school for preschool and pre-kindergarten, and then he started public school and was in kindergarten, first grade through 12th grade. He graduated in 2010. During those years, Bob was teaching Cisco networking, and we had 10 years in a row where we visited major cities in the United States while he went to the Cisco convention. And we were very excited to do that. After those trips, it seemed like we spent a lot of time at home just taking short trips and visiting family. Now it is already 2024. Period. Not quite sure how that happened. But I have had a wonderful life with my husband Bob and with my son David and with my neighbors and my church families and other relatives. I am now 72 years old, and I look forward to many more years together with Bob and with David. And I'm very thankful that my life has been so blessed with so many people and so blessed with many opportunities and blessed with different places to live in this wonderful country. Now I look forward to many, many more years ahead. And I thank the Lord for being with me and being faithful each step of the way.
Press that